Hey, Shalom, Makiam, Shalom, Call Hello, Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shah, Bahashim, Rakah, Hakudash. We send double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Much peace, love, and salutations to you, Akim, out there pushing the word sincerity and truth. This is the brother Ariala. I just wanted to do this World War III ALGO update concerning world trade or supply chain blockage. It's been in the news for about a week now, the Suez Canal blockage that happened. Very interesting situation. I think that more than anything, this situation just highlights how um, supply chains and merchandise and shipping and how things moving across the world really affect all of our day-to-day lives, and how a kingdom operates with the control of natural resources and commodities. It's how natural resources and commodities are moved all across the world, and how, one thing, when you have this integrated society that we have, and how they've developed world trade all across the world, one thing can just really disrupt a whole region, and that region being disrupted can disrupt a whole hemisphere, and that hemisphere being disrupted can affect the whole world. And this blockage in the Suez Canal in Egypt, I think, during the time of Passover, is very powerful. It took actually the full moon itself to help get this out of this canal. And so I felt like it was a very, very symbolic message sent, during the time of Passover, for this to happen over there in Egypt. So I want to read this in Ezekiel 27, because this really, we always talk about this in Ezekiel 27. It really just highlights how markets work and how you can have control. You know what I'm saying? And when you start this, it's uh, Ezekiel 27:1. It says, "The word of the Lord came again unto me, saying, Now, thou son of man, take up a lamentation for Tyrus, and say unto Tyrus, O thou that art situate in the entry of the sea, and art a merchant of the people for many isles. Thus saith the Lord Power, O Tyrus, thou hast said, I am of perfect beauty. Thy borders are in the midst of the seas. Thy builders have perfected thy beauty. They have made all thy shipboards of fir trees of Senir, and have taken cedars of Lebanon to make masts for thee. Of the oaks of the Bashan have they made thine oars, and the company of the Asherites have made thy benches of ivory, brought out of the eyes of Chittim." And so then it starts to go into all of these different, places that come in and out of this region and area, trading all of their goods and services. Okay, and then when you skip down, you know, it talks about in verse 24. These were thy merchants of all sorts of things, in blue and clothes and border work, and the chests of rich apparel, bound with cords, and made of cedar among thy merchandise. And the ships of Tarshish did sing of thee in thy market, and thou wast replenished and made very glorious in the midst of the seas. Right? And so there's these epicenters in the scriptures of what? Trade. These rulers of the world wanted to control and dominate these different regions and places. And if these places went down, there was huge economic or catastrophic economic um, consequences for things not going well in these water merchant regions. And this is something that we saw, this past week in the Suez Canal. Ezekiel 27:27 says, "The riches and thy fares, thy merchandise, thy mariners, thy pilots, thy caulkers, and the occupiers of thy merchandise, and all thy men of war that are in thee, and all thy company which is in the midst of thee, shall fall in the midst of the seas in the day of thy ruin. The suburbs shall shake at the sound of the cry of thy pilots, and all that handle the oar, the mariners, and all the pilots of the sea shall come down from their ships. They shall stand upon the land, and shall cause their voice to be heard against thee, and shall cry bitterly, and shall cast up dust upon their heads, and they shall wallow themselves in the ashes." And that's what's happened. All of these, whenever the Suez Canal was blocked by this huge tanker ship, all the merchandise, all the companies were wailing like, "Oh no, we can't move our product. Oh no, we're losing money." It said that they was losing up to $10 billion a day by merchandise of oil, natural gas, wood, clothes, food, all types of stuff, man. Car parts and circuit chips not being able to pass through the Suez Canal. Huge economic ramifications that are being felt. Even all the way over here in America, we see gas prices have jumped, okay, because of the scarcity, because that oil wasn't moving through there, right? Verse 31 says, "And they shall make themselves utterly bald for thee, and gird themselves with sackcloth, and they shall weep for thee, and bitterness of heart, and bitter wailing. And in their wailing they shall take up a lamentation for thee, and lament over thee, saying, What city is like Tyrus, like the destroyed in the midst of the sea?" Okay? And so, I'm just reading this just to make a point. When you skip down to verse 35, it says, "All the inhabitants of the isle shall be astonished at thee, and their kings shall be sore afraid. They shall be troubled in their countenance. The merchants among the people shall hiss at thee. Thou shalt be a terror, and never shall be any more." Now, currently, over in the Suez Canal, the people are hissing. All right? The people are upset. People want their stuff to be moved. Now, they're saying that they finally got this thing moved around. I want to play this clip because it definitely does highlight, some of the things that we're talking about.
Also, tugboats dislodged the bow of one of the largest ships to ever sail the seas from the muddy clay on the banks of the Suez Canal. Well, earlier, workers managed to dislodge the stern. The ship had been stuck rock solid in the mud for nearly a week. Freeing up the canal for shipping traffic cannot come soon enough. Businesses around the world were already feeling the pinch from the pandemic. A shipping slowdown was the last thing that they needed.
Right. And so as prophecy begins to continue to compound, not only has, the market's been hurt globally because of the pandemic where everything was shut down, businesses was going out, were going bankrupt. People wasn't traveling, international travel was being halted. So that hurt a lot of these oil and gas companies, that hurt a lot of the hospitality regions, that hurt so many different sectors of the global economy. With this happening here, it just continues to put a strain, and we read about this strain when you go into 2nd Ezra, the 15th and 16th chapter. These are the type of things that the Most High does to have the algorithm of World War III come into play, the algorithm of nation rising up against nation and issues that's happening, things happening politically, and then things happen economically to create the perfect storm for war, distress, famine, everything like that. One of the things that me and the brother Required Quam like to make sure that people understand when it comes to famine doesn't have to come from like a drought or for the lack of food. Famine can come from the lack of access to food. And this is a great example of that. How the supply chain got halted, caused all that food that was supposed to be going through there to go bad. And now in different sectors and regions, people don't have access to bread or this or that so they can eat. That's a famine, man. That's biblical. Okay? That's biblical. We can see here in 2nd Ezra as the Most High is starting to lay down prophecy. He's calling out to Babylon, Asia, Egypt, Syria. All right? All of these things are playing out. When you go down to the 18th verse, it says, "The beginnings of sorrows and great mournings, the beginnings of famine and great death, the beginnings of wars, and the power shall stand in fear, the beginnings of evils. What shall I do when these evils shall come? Behold, famine and plague." And we're starting to see the combination of those two things play out. Because of C-19, there's been a lot of supply chain shock. There's been a lot of bankruptcies of major corporations, and many businesses cannot operate. And so now, with this whole tanker blocking off the Suez Canal, a lot of these corporations have not been able to move their merchandise. They're losing all types of money. It's caused the price of oil and gas to go up. When the price of oil and gas goes up, the price for people to ship goods increases. With companies already having to borrow money just to move their product. Now with the prices going up, they're strained out even more. So this could result in even more product not being able to be put on the trucks because it's too expensive, right? So it says, behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment, right? For all these things they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges. Behold, victual shall be good, so good cheap upon earth, that they shall think themselves to be in good case. And even then shall evils grow upon earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. For many of them that dwell upon earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. You see that? So we're seeing these pieces come together with this situation right here. Let's play a little bit more of this.
More than 350 vessels have been waiting to use the canal. Others are taking the long way around Africa. While the canal may be cleared soon.
That long way around Africa was like the old way that the ancients used to travel over to the other side of the world, going down around Africa. Very, very difficult and expensive.
It could be months to repair the damage to the global supply chain. Well, CNN's Ben Wiedemann is in Cairo following the breaking news for us, and John Defterios here in Abu Dhabi working the global business angles on this. Let's start with you, Ben. What do we know at this point? This is a giant container ship. What's it up to and where's it headed now?
Well, it was just over an hour ago that it appeared that the effort that has been going on around the clock since last Tuesday finally succeeded in freeing the entire ship, bringing it back into the middle of that stretch of the Suez Canal, and it is now on its way north to the Great Bitter Lake, where we heard from Osama Rabia, who's the chairman of the Suez Canal Authority. It would go to be checked to make sure that the ship is still seaworthy after this traumatic experience. But really, starting from the early hours of...
And that ship is absolutely gigantic. It's ridiculously huge. It's the size of, they say, even bigger than the Eiffel Tower. Its length is more than the Empire State. It's just the Empire State Building. It's ridiculous. Massive, man.
Of today, Monday, it was a roller coaster of hopes and expectations. Just before sunrise, the news came out that the dredging operation, along with tugboats, was able to free the stern of the ship and largely move it out of sort of its blocking position in the canal. But there were points during the day when it appeared strong winds pushed it back, blocking the canal again. But now, fortunately, the canal is open. According to the chairman of the Suez Canal Authority, navigation has resumed in the canal, and there have been celebrations. The ships in the canal blowing their horns. I'd like to say the horns behind me in Cairo are blowing in celebration as well, but I think they're just blowing their horns. But I imagine most Egyptians at this moment are saying good riddance to the Ever Given.
Absolutely. Ben is in Cairo. JD, you've been looking at these the global business implications of what has been this skyscraper-sized ship, which is now wrenched away from the canal's bank. It is being towed away, as Ben suggested. Just what sort of disruption has this caused?
Well, I tell you, this is a parking lot of vessels still, Becky. So we have to think about trying to unwind this backlog that we have right now. So we peaked at almost 370 ships, and the volume there that we have in the canal on a normal day is about 50. Now, this is going to be interesting to see how much they can accelerate it. The Egyptian government said under President Al-Sisi, we're going to accelerate it, work 24 hours a day. maximum capacity, according to Lloyd's list, is 80 to 90 vessels a day. But you have to figure the time to rev up, get the ships into position, make sure that the safety precautions are taken here. So best case scenario, Lloyd's list says 5 to 6 days to clear the backlog of ships that have been waiting there already. The CEO of Maersk was not so confident. He was saying 6 days or more, and they're the largest shipping company in the world. Now, let's break down what do we have here. We have at least 10 vessels that have livestock. We heard a lot about the cattle on these ships early on. We haven't had an update, so we're eager to hear that, of course. About 10% of those ships that I'm talking about, maybe 370 overall, 10% carrying oil and gas, petrochemicals. Very critical supplies need to go into Lebanon and Syria, right, because they're short of fuel. Their economies are in crisis right now. And to your point, on the supply chain, we have auto parts, textiles, foodstuff, all locked up at this stage. Normally, we have about $10 billion a day in terms of the value of goods passing through the canal, $400 million an hour. That has stalled. And in fact, we've had dozens.
$400 million an hour of goods moving through this canal every single day, blocked for a week. Tremendous losses. Now, they got live cattle and things of that nature on these ships. And, no telling how much food, and, because everything's done down to a T. They know exactly how much food they need to have for that cattle to make it to the destination. They know exactly how much time. Everything is done by computer algorithms and then, sent out. So when you have something like this disrupt the supply chain, it literally can disrupt things for not just months, but even a year. Even when you want to talk about the food getting to where you may shop, whether it be Walmart or whatever store you go to, all the things, all the computer algorithms, they know exactly how many people are going to come and shop in on a particular day. They know the trends, okay, and they buy things according to those trends. Very, very, very accurate. I was looking into Chick-fil-A, which is a hamburger franchise. They do chicken sandwiches. And one of the guys who was looking to own one was telling me the metrics that they have. He was like, it was unbelievable. He said they know exactly how many sandwiches are going to be sold every single day. And they send it out beforehand. And it's like, he said it's unbelievable how accurate they know how many people come in on particular days around the holidays. Or they know when to do promotions. They know how many people tend to pick up on those promotions. It goes all the way down to the supply chain. So something like this during the time of C-19 is devastating, man. And so it just shows you more how during the time of this Passover season, the Most High is straining the spirit of this place out. Because the spirit of Egypt is all over this world. And this place is being strained out even more with something like this. It's beautiful.
Dozens of ships that said, we're going to go to the Cape of Good Hope, to the southern tip of Africa, into Europe and the United States, because they lost hope and patience right now. So there's a confidence issue, of course, for the Suez Canal before and now again after this. Can you deliver on all the demand on this key artery going forward is a crucial question that we have today. But think about the option here, Becky. If you didn't unlock it and get it moving, we're going to have a crane try to unload those containers and put them in either another ship or on the side. It would have taken days, if not weeks, to do it. So the global community tonight saying, jeez, what a relief. That's the answer.
Yeah, absolutely. Ben, there are those who say this has been the biggest crisis in the canal since the 1956 war, alluding, of course, to the Suez crisis, as it is known. The Egyptians will not want another crisis in this artery of life anytime soon, will they?
Boom. So there was a sandstorm apparently and high winds that made something go wrong and lodged this huge ship in the canal and created this whole situation. So we'll see what happens. I think that it's just prophetic and just a beautiful example of how the Most High can work on the different nations and how much merchandise is a critical part of kingdoms and empires and things to watch out for. Now, I'm going to close it out here in Isaiah 47 and in 11, it says, therefore shall evil come upon thee, thou shalt not know from whence it riseth, and mischief shall fall upon thee, and thou shalt not be able to put it off. And desolation shall come upon thee suddenly when thou shalt not know. Stand now with thine enchantments. And this is talking about the virgin daughter of Babylon. Stand now with your enchantments, with the multitude of thy sorceries, wherein thou hast labored from thy youth. If so be thou shalt be able to profit, if so be thou shalt may prevail. Thou art worried in the multitude of thy counsels. Let now the astrologers, the stargazers, the monthly prognosticators stand up and save thee from the things that shall come upon thee. Behold, they shall be as stubble. The fire shall burn them. They shall not deliver themselves from the power of the flame. There shall not be a coal to warm it, nor fire to sit before it. Thus shall they be unto thee with whom thou hast labored, even thy merchants from thy youth. They shall wander, every one to his quarter, none shall save thee. So as these things continue to heat up, as issues continue to progress, we're going to see more and more of the, world market infrastructure have these type of disruptances and problems. Okay, more of these type of things are going to continue to happen to propagate prophecy. And so I think this was a beautiful thing. It's an interesting thing to happen during the time of Passover. And it's just a little small piece of bigger things that are yet to come. And we shall see. I think it's powerful that it happened over there in Egypt. And the fact that it was a sandstorm that created it. And it took for the full moon of the Passover full moon for it to raise tides, for them to even wiggle the ship back into the water. And they had to work hard before the tide dropped down again, or it would have been permanently stuck in for a long ass time. And so we'll see. We'll still, like we said, we'll see the implications that it does on global markets, and just go from there. Of course, we're the watchmen. We keep an eye out for stuff like this. So, Lord willing, that was edifying. If you brothers have any more information or points, please post them down below. Call halal Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shah Bahashim Rakah Kodash. Double honors once again to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Much peace, love, and salutations to you. I came out there pushing the words and sipping in truth. Shalom.